you will save 35,000 rupees. Therefore, give me 10,000 rupees now and I will fix it at 3,000. That was the model where the revenue officer used to do this. Who was the loser? The city. Because people, they got money in their pocket. The city got 3,000 where they should have got 10,000 and they were the losers. The whole model was, I don't trust the citizens. I need revenue officers to police over them and this thing. That was the whole mindset of the place. The property tax that year was 120. We shifted to a self-assessment scheme, and I don't want to go too much into the details. 14 years later, the property tax is 2,000 crores, and it's not come only from new construction. It has come, in fact, in the first year it jumped to over 220 crores. So citizens were paying more, but they were paying more directly to the city rather than to the revenue officer. So basically we went into the self-assessment scheme, trust the citizen to tell the truth. We built in models like what the US IRS system has got. The Internal Revenue System works on the fact that in an audit, if you find that you have a problem, you may even go to jail. So the whole deterrent is if you get your numbers wrong, they could be held to pay. So here also we said we will inspect 5% per year. We never inspected, and we went to that particular thing. And what we discovered is if you give a simple scheme, my house is in Jayanagar 4th block. Jayanagar 4th block rate on the card is there, per square feet is there. So you put your area, multiply it by the rate applicable for Jayanagar 4th block, and you calculate the tax rate, and you calculate the figure and pay it into the bank, you're done. So that's the essence of the self-assessment scheme. Simple form, I'm sure some of you would have paid by it, etc., where you just fix this and you don't have to. Many of us have not even seen our revenue officers since this scheme came. Earlier the revenue officer was having coffee and all that in my house. In fact, I have met a revenue officer after we designed. He said, boss, after you, earlier people used to put their head down if they saw me. After this whole thing, they're just looking through me. Because I have not become, the power has gone to the citizen. And it's a very interesting scheme. You know, not only that, but the system, when you design a reform scheme like this, the system tends to strike back. So around 2003, after self-assessment scheme was already running for 3 years, they passed a law in the legislature which said we will go for some CVS, capital value system versus earlier system, confused everybody. But the game was in the rules. In the rules, they changed the rules to say, earlier, if I wrote out a check for 3,000 rupees, I am deemed to have complied with property tax. I've done my duty. It's over. Unless you come back and say, mistake is there, something is there. They changed the rules to say, you may pay the 3,000 rupees, but till I give you a receipt, you have not deemed to have paid. And I can take 1.5 years to give you this receipt. So the power shifted back to them through this receipt system. So some of us actually worked behind the scenes to try and negate this. The other thing that happened is Bangalore had experienced what self-assessment scheme was. So today we have a very peculiar situation. There's a law which says self-assessment, capital value and all that stuff, but it doesn't apply to Bangalore. They've given an exemption to Bangalore that we will continue with the same kind of scheme. The rest of the state has all those other rules, but they don't know any better because they never experienced the change. So there's another learning here. If you get people to experience what the new world looks like, it will never go back to the old world. If you get them to see a garbage-free city, the chances that we'll go back to the garbage world is very little. If they get to see 10-15 roads that look different, you cannot bury that away easily. So the trick in this whole thing is to get some reforms going, get people to experience it, see it as a model. So that's really, I mean, we had done it as a BATF, and essentially we did a whole lot of things. So people like Jairaj, SM Krishna played a big role by saying, I want this done. People like Jairaj, Vasant Rao, they were in BBMP. They were people who said, we will get this done. You needed that kind of leadership. People like me can give some intellectual inputs. This is a good way to design it. But you need the leadership to actually go out and drive it among the public. So that's really this thing. The last two slides, just so that I can complete, has nothing to do with the three. My belief of working for 14 years in this system is that the future lies in a collaborative platform. Essentially what happens is, it is purely chance that I put government as the yellow cholesterol rich part of the fried egg. Pure chance. But if you see around it, whether it be NGOs, business, interested citizens, RWAs, sir, we are in a mess. Let us not even fool ourselves. I can keep blaming government as long as I want, but this is not going to get fixed. The future lies in saying, let's work together to fix this place. Let's work together to find a common solution rather than leaving it. So for example, if you take the example of self-assessment scheme, you take the example of tender sure, you take the example of wake up, clean up and garbage, it is people from outside the system who are working with people in the system to bring change. And collaboration is the way out. I reserve my right to criticize BBMP. But I also want to work with BBMP on common areas where we can work together. So we need to find that balance in this whole space. The other thing, you must have heard this movie, North by Northwest. I have my own version called North by Northeast, because I need to go that side, up, not down. So, in life, the fastest way to fly north is the shortest distance. But in reality, when you're working in the public space, you have to take detours, you have to lie low for a while, you have to again spring back. So invariably it will be a north by northeast to adjust. The only question for people working in this space, I have to ask one thing. If you think you're going south with what you're doing, it is better to stop what you're doing. Because the last thing I want to do is to go south, and that's not my destination at all. But as long as the general direction is towards a better tomorrow, it is worth tinkering around to get there. That brings me to the last slide and just another minute for this talk. Sign for our times is, does this quote sound familiar? Is this what Gandhiji said? No. What did Gandhiji say? Yeah, so be the change you want to see was Gandhiji. I'm on risky territory here. I'm trying to change Gandhiji's statement, but I'm trying, and I've done it already. So you have Gandhiji's statement which says be the change you want to see, which means you want to make change, you be that, you be the change. Then you have Amartya Sen, who wrote a book called The Argumentative Indian. You know that? Amartya Sen, Nobel Prize winner. I don't think we are that much argumentative as much as being opinionated. We have got more opinions. All of us in our lives are very clear what the other person has to do. I am very clear she must not throw garbage on the road. I am very clear that he must not drive rashly. Everything is about the other person. It is rarely about me. I am very good. I follow rules, everything I do. But the other person is the problem. So I integrated the two and said, I think let's be the change that we want others to be. And if we think of that way, that I want that person to be like that, and if I can be that, because invariably I am not that, then we could have a future. So I say a sign for the modern times is be the change that you want others to be, which is a nice kind of thing. Thank you very much. I'm done with it. Pawan, I've delivered here, 9 o'clock. Any other questions? Anything? Yeah, sorry. One or two questions, just yeah.
So which is actually affecting my area where I'm based, close to NGV. The basic garbage problem what is happening today. People are also dumping so much of garbage into the open drains.
I know.
What is it that we're going to do about that? Because this one monsoon.
I know, and you're going to get clogged drains, and then it'll come back onto the streets, etc. So, which actually brings me to another problem. Actually, a lot of us are the problem. If citizens, so the changing of behavior among citizens is one of the most toughest tasks. And it can only come by examples. We have to tell our neighbor, please don't do this, etc. We need to speak up more often.
Despite we speaking up also, the main problem is that BBMP people don't
I know.
want to even collect the garbage.
I know that. So I'm not saying it's a trivial problem. It is a serious problem. I don't think I have a solution for you. You'll have to work with your local engineer and local corporator to do that.
So for the tender sure, I was curious to know what was the plan for sewer lines when it's getting clogged and all. So we still, how do we actually get?
So there'll be access points into the sewer lines built in at various points in the cycle. So that will be built in. But moment you have a cylindrical drain, you're talking really about a more concealed kind of drain. But there are challenges because they could still get stuffed with other things. So we have actually planned a certain distance with access manholes to be able to reach it and do it. Okay. Thank you very much, folks. Hey, hi, Kash. I've just finished. Okay. Thank you.